We are going to improve our body's mobility in just 12 minutes using 4 very simple, natural, and potent stretches. And by the end of this, you're gonna feel like a gosh darn cheerleader. Okay, I can't promise that, but I can promise you're gonna be feeling more open than you are right now. Helpful to have is something to pad your knee, and we will be hanging from a bar. If you don't have access to a bar, you can do the doorway hang, pushing your chest through the middle, or hands on a wall at shoulder height, pushing your chest downwards. We're gonna begin with dialing in our breath. Take a nice big inhale, and then a nice soft exhale. Repeat one more time. This is the cadence of breathing that we want to maintain during all of our movements. And we'll start with simply sitting into a deep squat. We'll start our 30-second timer. And my recommendation is to do this first round with your heels elevated on something. We're all coming to this practice at a different level. Your hips may be much higher. You may be way more leaned forward in the torso, and that's completely fine. What we want to find is some passiveness here in the squat, meaning we want to just relax into it, let gravity do the work. This is where we can connect to our breath, take some slow exhales, and let your body relax into the position. Something to think about with the squat is at the end of the day, the squat is all about getting your knees upwards towards your chest. Excellent work. Now we're gonna move directly into crab press. So take a seated position. We're gonna place the hands right behind the hips, and then we're gonna push our hips upward. Now we're looking to get that nice, pretty parallel body line, but in the beginning, you might look more like this. That's completely fine. That's exactly where we wanna work. And the more you lean your hips forward, the more your shoulders are stretched behind you. So that's also something you can play with. Our big focus here is opening the shoulders in the chest. The way that we can achieve this is by drawing those shoulders slightly down and back, and by trying to show those elbow pits to externally rotate through the shoulder. So what you'll see with these 4 stretches is that the squat and the hang are passive, where we're letting gravity do the work, while the crab and the hip flexor stretch are active, where we're trying to pry our body open. For these active motions, it's all about pushing yourself to your body's end range and then seeing if it'll allow a little bit more as the time goes. And we want to do this calmly without stressing the nervous system too much. So it's a fine line to navigate that you'll get better and better at. And now we move to our kneeling quad hip flexor stretch. At the basic level, you can stay in the half kneeling position and rock the hips forward and back, but we want to try to grab that foot as soon as we can. You can always use a towel or a band for assistance here, and grabbing with 2 hands is the ultimate expression of mobility and stability. So we're gonna rock the hips forward and back, and we're gonna squeeze that glute to open the hip as we rock forward. And this is that prying that I'm referring to, where we wanna be really active here in our intention to open the hip behind us. So if it feels good for you, you can grab the foot, and as we flex the knee, now we put a lot more stretch onto the quads. And now with the knee flexed, our upright position challenges the quads and hip flexors just as much as leaning forward does. This will have massive effects on your hip health and reverse all that sitting that we do most of the day. All right, excellent. Let's go ahead and switch to the other side. So once again, we'll start nice and easy here with just rocking the hip forward and back, and feel free to stay with this version the full time. Do your best to keep your hips squared straight forward and stay connected to that breath. And if you're feeling it, you can grab that foot behind you and we can turn up the intensity. One of the reasons why I love doing these routines is because they work really well. It can be intimidating and even excessive for people to do full-on mobility programs or hire coaches to coach them in mobility. For a lot of people, just 10 to 15 minutes per day of stretching intentionally with your breath leaves you feeling very good while also having all the necessary range of motion that you need for your life. So we move on to the last stretch of our circuit here, and that is the hang. As mentioned before, you can use the doorway or wall variation if you don't have something to hang from. But I'd strongly encourage getting yourself a doorway pull-up bar because hanging is completely transformational. And if you're a beginner and full hanging feels like too much, you simply just keep your feet on the ground or a box in front of you. And now we're back to passiveness. The only thing active is the grip here. The rest is left to gravity. Allow your shoulders to be pulled up while your hips are being pulled downward. And logically, this seems to lead to some decompressing of the spine. Now the grip is what will really limit you here if you're not able to make it the full 30 seconds. And if that's you, you can always just set your feet down to finish the 30. I'm actually doing a video with Dr. John Kirsch, who discovered that hanging can actually lead to reshaping of the bones in your shoulder girdle that leads to less compression of the shoulder muscles and soft tissue. So very interesting. Be on the lookout for that. We can shake it out a little bit, connect back to your breath. That's 1 round, and we're gonna do 2 more. Now moving back to squat, you can use that heel elevation again, or you can move to heels flat on the ground like I'm gonna do here. Now what's really interesting about the deep squat is that people who are really limited here get so much value in spending time and deepening this position and getting more comfortable there. While also, people who naturally have a good deep squat position still gain a ton of value from spending time there if they haven't been. Why is that? I think it's because physiologically, our bodies like to be in the deep squat position. It makes us breathe better. It can improve digestion. It's the natural position to defecate in. Much like getting our bare feet in grass or sand feels very good for the body, just relaxing into the deep squat position also has this kind of calming effect. Combine that with the ankle and hip mobility gains that you can make from it, and it's really hard to find a reason to not sit into the squat every day of your life. All right, we're moving back to crab press. So our second time through, we're just gonna see if we can gently open the shoulders a bit more. Now the hips will also be stretched in this movement, which is awesome, but it's really more of a challenge to squeeze those glutes while maintaining that good shoulder position. And that squeezing of the glutes while our arms go behind us is what's gonna have that gentle opening effect of the front side of our body. All right, and let's do one more. Hold for a couple seconds at the top and then go ahead and relax. So by now, I imagine you're feeling like the body's pretty warmed up and you're starting to feel good, just like I am. Let's move into this next round of hip flexor stretching. You can use whatever variation is feeling good for you. And remember that you can always use a towel or even a t-shirt to grab that leg up behind you. Grabbing the foot behind you is a classic yoga quad stretch. And my kind of rendition is putting this rocking movement into it. I find that for myself as a bigger guy that tends to get stiff from, training my legs and whatnot, I just find putting movement into stretches, making them a bit more active, really helps me find deeper ranges of motion and kind of gently open those joints more. All right, great job. Let's go ahead and relax and we'll switch to the other leg. All right, beautiful, beautiful work here. Guys, we are really taking care of the body. These 4 movements combined work through all the bigger joints of the hips and the shoulders. Mobility does not have to be so complex. It can actually be quite simple when we really think about the things that our body needs to be able to do. So let's go ahead and move into our next hang for 30 seconds. So let's talk about the ranges of motion that we're using in this routine. So we sit into the squat, and this is for deep hip flexion. So we're getting practice bringing that knee close to our chest. We then do our hip flexor stretch, which is the opposite, right? So now we're opening the hip and stretching those hip flexors and getting hip extension. Then we move into the shoulders with the hang, which is driving the shoulders into flexion overhead. And we do our crab press, which is the opposite, putting the shoulders into extension behind us. Of course, there is other areas in your body to cover, but as far as bang for your buck goes, these 4 are very quality. And let's move into the next round of squats. So by the 3rd round, most people are feeling nice and warmed up in their body, able to sit deeper into this position, relax deeper, maybe even take away some of that heel elevation. And I'm playing with some simple hip rotation in the squat. I can pry my elbows outward against my knees. That drives the knees out into external rotation of the hip. I then do the opposite and I push my knees into my elbows to see if I can get my elbows to touch, and that's going to represent some good internal rotation of the hip. And I like to tell people the first step is just to spend a lot of time in the squat. The second step is to get really strong down there and be able to maneuver low to the ground. We'll move into our next round of crab presses, also known as reverse tabletop in yoga. But because I'm so familiar with using this position for animal movements, I always just tend to call it the crab. So let's connect with the breath here. Exhale as you push up and really try to feel that front of the body open. All right, beautiful work.
my beautiful mobility people, grab yourself a quick rest as we head into our next hip flexor stretch. So it's been about 10 minutes, and I want you guys to think about how you're feeling in your body right now. Most likely, you're feeling a bit charged up, you're feeling lighter, you're feeling a bit more open through your muscles. And when you really think about it, it's pretty amazing that we can accomplish that feeling in just 10 minutes. And it makes me think that no matter what you do, whether it's play soccer, lift heavy weights, sit at a desk all day long working, if we can take these 10 minutes for ourselves, we can carry this openness into the rest of our life. Okay, I hope that first hip is feeling nice and open. Let's go ahead and switch sides. We'll move into the second hip. All right, excellent work. Let's move right into our next hang. Now, I really enjoy doing my stretches in a circuit fashion like this. Reason being, perfect example with the hang, as I do the other stretches, my grip gets to recover. So this means that I'm well rested, and often on my third set, I get my best hang. And in my opinion, I think the body really loves this. It likes to slowly ramp up and progress into your workout. And it's also the reason why I think 10 to 15 minute mobility routines can be so effective. We don't drain the muscles and the nervous system through tons and tons of work. We get in, it's quick, it's potent, we open our joints in these necessary ranges of motion, and it makes us feel really good. So just adding a few more seconds on this hang because it feels so darn good. All right, y'all, amazing work. Thank you for joining me here today. I hope you're feeling good. I'm feeling loose, I'm feeling supple. I got this from Knees Over Toes guy, touching the toe to the head when your hips are feeling nice and open. And I actually have a video coming out with Ben soon, so be on the lookout for that.
Strength Side members get the last 2 rounds live with me.
And the full routine is 20 minutes in our membership. It's only $10 a month to join. If you want to do the rest of this routine with me, click that first link in the description.